They called her the mute girl of the bar, a silent shadow wiping glasses, head down, enduring the jeers of drunk soldiers. But on Christmas Eve, when a group of Navy SEALs bragged about their missions, she heard what they shouldn't say. Code names, coordinates, and a name forbidden to mention. No one knew she could read lips, analyze every breath, recognize the man who sold American military secrets to the enemy. And when the bar doors closed, the mute girl finally opened her mouth to destroy a traitor. The Anchor's Rest sat 3 miles from Naval Base Coronado, close enough that the stink of diesel and salt water clung to every surface. On Christmas Eve, the bar filled with off-duty personnel, mostly SEALs, mostly drunk, mostly loud. Elena Marsh worked behind the counter, moving like smoke between tables. 24 years old, 5'3", hair pulled back tight enough to hurt. The regulars called her Mouse. Ghost, the mute girl. She never responded. A SEAL in his 30s grabbed her wrist as she reached for empty bottles. "Hey Mouse, say something. One word, I'll tip you $50. Elena kept her eyes down. She pulled free gently, took the bottles, moved to the next table. "Freak," the SEAL muttered. His friends laughed. The owner, Carl Patterson, a former Marine with a prosthetic leg, watched from the register. He hired Elena 6 months ago when she walked in looking for work, no references, no background. Just a quiet intensity that made him ask no questions. Elena moved through the chaos with surgical precision. She memorized drink orders without writing them down. She knew which tables paid cash, which ran tabs, which would try to leave without settling. Her eyes tracked everything, the angle of a head, the twitch of a hand, the rhythm of breathing. At table 7, a man in his 60s sat alone, nursing whiskey. Thomas Garrett, retired Navy intelligence. He watched Elena with the careful attention of someone who recognized a particular skill set when he saw it. When she refilled his glass, he leaned forward. "You're not what you seem." Elena's eyes flickered to his face for half a second, then away. "I worked counterintelligence for 30 years, Garrett continued softly. "I know how ghosts move. Someone burned you, didn't they?" She walked away without acknowledging him, but her pulse had kicked up. Just slightly, just enough. Near midnight, a man at table 12 caught her attention. Not his face, his wrist. A Rolex Daytona, platinum, with custom engraving visible when he gestured. That particular model moved through Eastern European arms networks. Only people connected to very specific operations wore them. The man was a SEAL, commander rank, based on the deference shown by the 3 men with him. Elena's breathing didn't change, her expression didn't shift. But inside her head, combat algorithms activated, pathways carved during years of training she wasn't supposed to remember. She began to listen. Commander Blake Rowan, SEAL Team 7, sat with his back to the wall. Standard operator habit. His voice carried when he drank, which was often lately. "Package delivered smooth," he said, laughing. "Clean as Sunday morning." The others nodded. They spoke in code, or what they thought was code. Casual language layered with operational detail. The kind of conversation that seemed innocent unless you knew the vocabulary. Elena wiped down a nearby table, positioned at 45 degrees, optimal angle for lip reading. She'd been trained in 12 languages, could parse conversations through windows from 200 feet. 4 meters in a noisy bar was nothing. "Undertow's running smooth," one of the junior SEALs said. 3 more drops before phase 2. Elena's hand paused on the table surface for a fraction of a second. Operation Undertow, a Black Sea interdiction mission, highly classified. She'd seen the briefing once, 3 years ago, when she still carried credentials. Current operational details should be restricted to fewer than 20 people in the intelligence community. Blake shouldn't know the name. A SEAL commander, even at his level, wouldn't have access unless someone was feeding him information. She moved closer, circling the room, clearing tables that didn't need clearing. "The account's looking healthy," Blake said. "Another 60 by March, then we're done." "Your guy in Washington still solid?" "Rock solid. He's protected all the way up." Elena's brain processed faster than conscious thought. The pattern was clear. Payment structure, protected source, operational intelligence. This wasn't bar talk. This was treason, discussed like a business deal. Then Blake said something that stopped her cold. "Remember Prague? That operator who got too close? Problem solved itself." The others laughed. Elena's vision narrowed. Prague. 3 years ago. Her partner, David Chen, found dead in an alley, officially ruled a robbery. But Chen had been investigating financial irregularities in contractor payments, following a trail that led back to someone inside the intelligence apparatus. 2 weeks later, Elena's credentials were revoked. Her file was burned. She was told to disappear or face prosecution for violations she didn't commit. Blake noticed her standing too still, too close, his eyes locked onto her face. "The hell you staring at, mouse?" Elena looked away. She turned toward the kitchen, but she'd seen enough, heard enough. The pieces aligned with brutal clarity. Blake Rowan was selling classified information. Someone in Washington was protecting him, and they'd killed Chen to keep their network intact. She pushed through the kitchen door, hands steady despite the hurricane building inside her chest. The kitchen was empty. Carl had left early, trusting Elena to close up. She stood at the steel counter, breathing controlled, mind racing. Through the door's window, she watched Blake's table. They were getting drunker, louder, more careless. "The submarine data went for 2.5, Blake was saying. Gru loved it. Paid in cryptocurrency, untraceable. Elena's jaw clenched. Submarine positioning data, lives on the line. American sailors who trusted their intelligence apparatus to keep them hidden, now exposed because a decorated SEAL wanted money. One of the junior SEALs noticed her watching through the window. He nudged Blake. Blake stood. He walked toward the kitchen, his stride purposeful despite the alcohol. Elena moved away from the door, positioning herself near the knife rack. Not to use, just to have options. Blake pushed through. "You got a problem, mouse? You keep staring like you understand what we're saying." Elena kept her head down, her posture submissive. Every instinct screamed to engage, to put him down right there. But she needed more. She needed evidence that would stick. "I'm talking to you," Blake said, stepping closer. "You deaf and dumb both?" His hand reached for her chin, forcing her face up. Elena's training mapped the scenario in microseconds. 12 ways to disable him, 3 clean exits, 2 camera blind spots. Her body could move before his nervous system registered the threat. But she held still. Blake's phone rang. He checked the screen, his expression shifting to something harder. "Yeah, hold on." He walked back into the bar. Elena exhaled slowly. She pulled out her own phone, a burner, untraceable, and activated the recording app. She slipped it into her apron pocket, microphone exposed. Then she walked back into the main room. Blake was on the phone near the bar's front window, speaking low but urgent. Elena moved close, wiping down tables, every motion calibrated to position the phone optimally. "No, the assets confirmed," Blake said. "Delivery Tuesday. Same protocol. Wire transfer to the Luxembourg account." Elena's phone captured every word. Blake turned suddenly. His eyes went to her apron pocket, then her face. Something shifted in his expression, recognition, or suspicion, or both. "You," he said. His hand moved to his hip, a reflex searching for a sidearm that wasn't there in civilian clothes. Elena didn't wait. She was done being silent. Elena moved first. She snapped her hand up, striking Blake's phone from his grip. It clattered across the floor. In the same motion, she grabbed a beer bottle from the nearest table and threw it with surgical precision at the main light panel. Glass shattered. The bar plunged into darkness, lit only by emergency exit signs and the glow from the kitchen. Chaos erupted. Drunk SEALs shouting, stumbling, reaching for weapons they weren't carrying. Elena dropped low, sliding under a table, her body memory taking over. She'd trained for low-light combat in warehouses, tunnels, bombed-out buildings. This was easier. One of Blake's men lurched toward where she'd been standing. Elena rose behind him, locked his elbow, applied pressure to the nerve cluster at his neck. He dropped without a sound. The second SEAL had better instincts. He grabbed a pool cue, swinging in wide arcs. Elena rolled under a table, came up on his blind side, drove her palm into his solar plexus. Air left his lungs in a rush. She swept his legs, put him down, kept moving. 7 seconds had elapsed. Blake backed toward the exit, his training overriding his alcohol. He wasn't stupid enough to fight blind in hostile terrain. Elena vaulted the bar, landing in front of him. In the dim light, he saw her face clearly for the first time. Saw the cold operational focus that no bartender should possess. "Who the hell are you?" he breathed. Elena pulled a knife from her belt, small, tactical, the kind intelligence operatives carried. She pressed it to his throat, not enough to break skin, just enough to focus his attention. "Tell me about Prague," she whispered. Her first words spoken in 6 months. Her voice was rough from disuse, but steady. Blake's eyes widened. "Prague? I don't—" "David Chen, you killed him. Or had him killed. Tell me who gave the order." "You're insane." Elena increased pressure. "Undertow. GRU. Luxembourg accounts. I have recordings. I have enough to bury you. Give me the name at the top." Blake's face twisted. Then he smiled. "You think you're the first to try? They'll erase you like they erased your file." He moved fast, combat-trained, reflex-hardened. He broke her grip, shoved her back, crashed through the front door into the parking lot. Elena pursued without hesitation. The night air was cold, rain beginning to fall. Blake sprinted toward a black SUV at the lot's edge. Elena closed the distance, her smaller size offset by superior conditioning. She was 10 feet away when headlights blazed to life. A second SUV, engine already running, blocked her path. Blake dove into the first vehicle, which peeled out immediately. The second SUV's doors opened. 2 men stepped out, wearing tactical gear, faces covered. Elena assessed instantly. Professionals, not drunk SEALs. This was Blake's security detail. She turned and ran. Elena ran through side streets, using alleys and fences, losing the tail within minutes. They were good, but she'd been trained by better. Her apartment was 3 miles away, a studio above a laundromat. She took 40 minutes to get there, doubling back, checking for surveillance, making sure she was clean. Inside, the space looked abandoned. A mattress on the floor, a hot plate, a duffel bag, but the walls told a different story. Maps covered every surface. Photographs connected by red string, documents printed from memory, reconstructed from fragments. 3 years of obsessive investigation, conducted in the margins of a life spent washing dishes and serving drinks. At the center, David Chen's face. Her partner, her friend, the man who'd taught her to read micro-expressions, who'd saved her life in Istanbul, who'd died because he got too close to something rotten. Elena had been Elena right back then, a CIA field officer specializing in linguistic analysis and behavioral prediction. She'd been pulled into a joint task force investigating financial irregularities in defense contracts. Chen had tracked payments to offshore accounts, linked them to operational compromises in Eastern Europe. 2 days before he was supposed to present his findings, he was dead. Elena had tried to continue his work. Instead, she'd been called into a review board, accused of mishandling classified material, told her security clearance was suspended pending investigation. The investigation never happened. Her file was sealed. She was told to find a new career or face prosecution. She'd understood then. Whoever killed Chen was inside the system, high enough to manipulate records, powerful enough to threaten a federal officer without consequence. So she'd become a ghost, learned to survive without identity, and waited. Now, sitting on her mattress, she played back the recording from the bar. Blake's voice, clear and incriminating. GRU loved it. Paid in cryptocurrency, untraceable. It was enough. Maybe. If she could get it to someone who wasn't compromised. She pulled out a laptop, old, encrypted, hidden in a floor panel. She had one contact left in the NSA, a woman named Rachel Pierce, who'd helped her disappear when the walls closed in. Elena sent an encrypted message. Need verification. Operation Undertow. Submarine positioning. Check for unauthorized access. The reply came 10 minutes later. Undertow compromised 3 hours ago. USS Michigan lost contact. Presumed Russian intercept. How did you know? Elena's hands tightened into fists. The submarine was already in danger. Blake had delivered the data recently, maybe today, maybe yesterday. People were going to die because a SEAL commander wanted money. She typed back, I know who sold it. Have proof. But there's someone higher, someone protecting him. Send me everything. Elena hesitated. Trust was a luxury she couldn't afford, but time was running out. She uploaded the recording, Blake's photo, documentation of his financial connections. Then she waited. Her phone rang, not the burner. Her old phone, the one she'd kept powered off for 3 years. She answered, "Hello, Elena." A man's voice. Smooth, confident, familiar. Her blood went cold. Langford Hale, former Deputy Director of Counterintelligence. The man who'd recruited her. The man who'd burned her file. "You've been busy," Hale said. "Blake called me. Said a ghost from the past showed up at his favorite bar." Elena said nothing. "Here's what's going to happen," Hale continued. "You're going to delete everything you collected tonight. You're going to forget Blake's name. And you're going to disappear again. I'll even help new identity, clean papers, 50,000 in an account. Walk away, Elena. You earned it." "You killed Chen," Elena said quietly. "Chen was going to expose a very profitable arrangement. I protected national security by removing a liability. You sold submarine positions to Russian intelligence. I facilitated information exchange that prevented larger conflicts. It's called diplomacy through back channels." Elena closed her eyes. The man who'd taught her tradecraft, who'd spoken about honor and sacrifice, had been selling out his own people for money. "Take the deal, Elena. Last chance." She hung up. Elena moved fast. Hale knowing her location meant a team was already en route. She had maybe 20 minutes. She grabbed her go bag, smashed the laptop, scattered the hard drive pieces in 3 different dumpsters as she moved through the neighborhood. Everything went to backup USB drives hidden in her jacket lining. She needed a place to work. Somewhere, off the grid. Thomas Garrett's house sat in a quiet neighborhood 15 miles north. The retired intelligence officer, who'd recognized her at the bar. She'd researched him 6 months ago when he became a regular, clean record, forced retirement after he reported corruption that went nowhere. She knocked at 2 in the morning. Garrett opened the door with a pistol in hand, then lowered it when he saw her face. "I figured you'd show up eventually. Come in." His living room was part museum, part operations center. Military memorabilia mixed with active computer setups, multiple monitors, encrypted communication gear. "Still connected?" Elena asked. "Retired doesn't mean dead." "Who burned you?" "Langford Hale." Garrett's jaw tightened. "That explains a lot. He's the reason I'm retired. I flagged financial irregularities in his division, got stonewalled, then forced out." "What do you have?" Elena laid it out. Blake, the recordings, the compromised submarine operation, Chen's murder. Garrett listened, then pulled up secure channels on his computer. USS Michigan. Communications lost 4 hours ago in the Black Sea. Navy's calling it equipment failure, but that's cover. Someone knew exactly where to look. Blake delivered the positioning data. Hale's protection allowed him to operate. They're killing American sailors for profit. "You have proof?" Elena handed him the USB drive. Blake's confession, financial records I reconstructed, communication logs linking him to known GRU accounts. Garrett plugged it in, analyzed the files. His expression went from skepticism to cold fury. "This is prosecutable. If we can get it to the right people." Hale's connected all the way up. "I know someone. FBI counterintelligence, works parallel to CIA. She's clean, but we need to survive long enough to make contact." Headlights swept across the front window. Garrett moved to the window, peered through a crack in the blinds. 2 vehicles. Professional deployment. Elena was already moving to the back of the house, checking exits, calculating angles. "They tracked me faster than expected." "Or they tracked me," Garrett said. "Hale knows who I am. He'd anticipate you coming here." Basement leads to utility tunnels. Old Cold War infrastructure. Most people forgot they exist. They descended as footsteps approached the front door. The tunnels beneath the neighborhood dated back to 1962, built during the Cuban Missile Crisis as part of civil defense planning. Most were sealed now, but Garrett had maintained access. They moved through concrete passages, led by flashlight, their footsteps echoing in the darkness. "Where does this lead?" Elena asked. "Municipal Building 3 blocks east, old maintenance access. I can get us to a secure phone." Behind them, the sound of breaking glass echoed down through the basement entrance. "They're in the house," Garrett said. "Double time." They ran. The tunnel split, branched, offered multiple paths. Garrett navigated by memory, choosing turns without hesitation. A voice boomed through the tunnel, amplified by the concrete. "Elena Wright. Or should I call you Elena Marsh?" Stop running, there's nowhere to go. Hale himself, he'd come personally. Elena stopped, turned. Garrett grabbed her arm. Don't engage, that's what he wants. He'll hunt us either way, Elena said. I need to face him. With what? 2 flashlights and righteous anger? Elena pulled a pistol from her jacket, Garrett's, lifted from his desk drawer on the way to the basement. I took precautions. Garrett almost smiled. You really were one of the best. They backtracked carefully, positioning themselves in a junction where 4 tunnels met. Tactical advantage. Multiple escape routes. Limited approach angles for attackers. Hale emerged from the darkness, flanked by 2 operatives. He looked older than Elena, remembered late 50s, hair silver, but still carrying the confidence of someone who'd operated in shadows for decades. Elena. Thomas. This is disappointing. You sold out your own people, Elena said. For money. I prevented wars. Russian intelligence needed assurance we weren't planning first strikes. I provided measured, strategic intelligence that maintained equilibrium. You gave them submarine positions. People are dead. Hale's expression hardened. The crew of the Michigan is fine. We knew they'd be intercepted. It was theater. Everyone plays their part. And Chen? What part did he play? Chen was an idealist who didn't understand the complexity of modern intelligence. He would have exposed operations that kept this country safe. Elena raised the pistol. You murdered him. I made a difficult decision, as I'm about to make another one. Hale nodded to his operatives. Garrett moved first, throwing a flashbang he'd carried from the house. The tunnel exploded with light and noise. Elena dropped low, muscle memory guiding her through the chaos. She fired twice, not to kill, but to disable. One operative went down, knee shattered. The other dove for cover. Hale retreated, surprisingly fast for his age. Garrett tackled the second operative, 50 years of experience translating into brutal efficiency. The fight lasted 5 seconds. Elena pursued Hale through the tunnel network. He was heading back toward the surface, toward backup, toward safety. She caught him at a ladder leading up to a street grate. Stop, she commanded. Hale turned, hands raised. You won't shoot me, Elena. You're not a killer. You're right. I'm not. She pulled out her phone, set to record. But I need you to confess. Hale laughed. You think a recording matters? I have protection at the highest levels. A recording disappears. You disappear. Then explain it to me. Make me understand how selling out your country was justified. And Hale, confident in his protection, in his power, did exactly that. He detailed the financial structure, the protection from congressional oversight, the network that spanned CIA, Defense, and State Department. He confessed to everything. Because he believed no recording would matter. He was wrong. Garrett had already sent the files. While Elena kept Hale talking, the retired intelligence officer had used his secure connection to transmit everything to FBI counterintelligence agent Sarah Morrison, a woman who'd spent 5 years investigating corruption in the intelligence community. The response was immediate and overwhelming. By dawn, federal agents had arrested Blake Rowan at a military airfield, attempting to board a transport to Germany. His accounts were frozen. His security detail was detained for questioning. Hale was taken into custody in the tunnel, charged with espionage, murder conspiracy, and a dozen other federal crimes. His protection network collapsed as agents moved simultaneously against co-conspirators, preventing them from destroying evidence or fleeing. The USS Michigan surfaced safely, its crew unaware of how close they'd come to disaster. Elena sat in an FBI safe house, giving her statement for the 6th time. Agent Morrison listened with the patience of someone who understood that trauma made memory non-linear. Your file's been unsealed, Morrison said. The accusations against you were fabricated. You're clear. Am I? Elena asked. 3 years of running didn't just stop because paperwork changed. You exposed one of the largest intelligence compromises in recent history. The director wants to meet you. There's talk of reinstatement, commendations, back pay. Elena looked at her hands. They'd wiped thousands of glasses, served countless drinks, never once revealing what they were trained to do. I don't want commendations. What do you want? David Chen to be alive. A system that doesn't protect traitors. My 3 years back. Morrison nodded slowly. I can't give you those, but I can ensure the investigation continues. Hale's network went deep. There are others. How many? Enough that we need someone who knows how to work in the shadows. Someone who can't be bought, can't be intimidated, won't quit. Elena understood what was being offered. Not reinstatement, not a return to her old life, something different. I'll think about it, she said. The news broke 72 hours later. SEAL commander arrested for espionage. Former CIA deputy director, charged with selling classified information. Navy investigation reveals extensive security breach. The media devoured it. A decorated SEAL, a respected intelligence official, both exposed as traitors. The story had everything: military prestige, espionage, betrayal. What the media didn't have was Elena's name. The official story credited an ongoing FBI investigation with uncovering the network. Elena's role was classified, her identity protected. She'd spent 3 years learning to be invisible. The Bureau saw no reason to change that. Blake Rowan's court-martial was swift and merciless. The evidence was overwhelming. Financial records, recordings, testimony from other members of his team who hadn't been complicit but had seen enough to corroborate. He was sentenced to life at Fort Leavenworth, with no possibility of parole. Langford Hale's trial would take longer. His lawyers were expensive, his connections deep. But the recording Elena had made in the tunnel became the cornerstone of the prosecution. In his own words, captured clearly, Hale detailed every aspect of his operation. Legal experts predicted life imprisonment, minimum. Elena watched the news coverage from a hotel room in Virginia, packed bags beside her, plane ticket to Seattle on the dresser. Morrison had secured her a new identity if she wanted it, or her old one back, or something in between. She hadn't decided yet. Her phone rang, not FBI, not NSA, a private number she'd memorized but never expected to see. Hello? Miss Wright? A young voice, female, nervous. My name is Lieutenant Jennifer Hayes. I'm the communications officer on the USS Michigan. Elena sat up. Lieutenant, I wanted to thank you. Command told us what happened, that someone stopped, and what could have happened. A pause. My sister's getting married next month. I almost didn't make it home to be there. Elena's throat tightened. You don't need to thank me. I do. We all do. The entire crew. We voted, and we wanted you to know, you saved our lives, and we won't forget it. After Hayes hung up, Elena sat in silence for a long time. 3 years of living in shadows, pretending to be someone else, watching and waiting for the chance to make things right. It hadn't brought Chen back. It hadn't erased the pain, but it had stopped more people from dying. That had to count for something. Elena returned to San Diego one last time. The Anchor's Rest looked the same. Same worn stools, same neon signs, same smell of stale beer and antiseptic. But the atmosphere had changed. Word had gotten around, not details, but enough. The quiet bartender had been involved in something big. Something classified. The regulars watched her differently now. Wary respect instead of casual cruelty. Carl Patterson stood behind the bar, cleaning glasses. He nodded when she walked in. Heard you quit the bartending business. Something like that, Elena said. You were always too good for this place. I knew that. Didn't know why, but I knew. He poured her a drink, pushed it across the bar. On the house. For whatever you did that I'm never going to hear about. Elena accepted it but didn't drink. She was looking at the corner table where Blake Rowan had sat, where this had all begun to end. A young SEAL, early 20s, approached cautiously. Excuse me, were you the one who worked here? I was, Elena said. I wanted to apologize for how some of us treated you. We didn't know. You didn't know I was human? You didn't know I mattered? Elena's voice was quiet but sharp. I was the same person before and after. The only thing that changed was your perception. The SEAL looked stricken. You're right. I'm sorry. Don't apologize to me. Be better to the next person who serves you drinks. He nodded and walked away. Thomas Garrett entered the bar, saw Elena, joined her at the counter. Thought I might find you here, saying goodbye? Closing a chapter. Morrison told me you're considering her offer, working counterintelligence, hunting the rest of Hale's network. I am. Good. The system needs people who can't be corrupted. who remember why we do this work." Garrett signaled for a drink. "For what it's worth, Chen would be proud of you." Elena felt the weight of that. Chen, who'd believed in institutions even when they failed him, who'd kept investigating even when it became dangerous, who'd trusted that eventually justice would work. He'd be angry it took this long, Elena said. But yeah, maybe proud. She stood, left money on the bar despite Carl's protest. At the door, she turned back. The bar full of military personnel, all of them watching her now, all of them aware that the woman they dismissed had been something far more dangerous than they'd imagined. "I was never mute," Elena said, her voice carrying across the room. "I was listening. The difference matters." She walked out into the California night. Behind her, the bar fell silent for a long moment, before conversations slowly resumed. Elena Marsh no longer existed. Elena Wright was being rebuilt, piece by piece, identity restored, purpose renewed. She had work to do. Hale's network extended further than anyone knew. There were others, like Blake, others like Hale, embedded in institutions that should have protected America. Finding them would take time, years, maybe. But Elena had learned patience in the hardest possible school. She'd spent 3 years invisible, watching and waiting. Now she'd be invisible again, but for a different reason. Not hiding from the system, but working within it, hunting the people who'd corrupted it. The mute girl had found her voice, and she wasn't going to stop speaking until every traitor faced justice. Agent Sarah Morrison was waiting at the corner, leaning against a black sedan. She straightened when Elena approached. "Ready?" Morrison asked. Elena looked back at the bar one last time. The neon sign flickered, casting red and blue shadows across the parking lot. Inside, men who'd called her mouse and ghost were beginning to understand that sometimes the quietest person in the room is the most dangerous. "Yeah," Elena said. "I'm ready." She got into the sedan. Morrison started the engine, pulled onto the street, drove toward the airport, and whatever came next. In the back seat, Elena opened her new credentials. FBI Special Agent, Counterintelligence Division, a badge that meant something again, a purpose that honored Chen's memory. The car merged onto the highway, leaving San Diego behind. Ahead, somewhere in the darkness, other traitors were operating, convinced they were untouchable, protected by systems they'd corrupted. They hadn't met Elena Wright yet, but they would. And when they did, they'd learn the same lesson Blake Rowan and Langford Hale had learned too late. Silence doesn't mean surrender. Sometimes it means someone's listening, someone's watching, someone's waiting for the moment to strike. The mute girl was never mute at all. She was just waiting for the right time to speak. And when she did, her voice ended careers, destroyed networks, and brought justice to those who thought they were above it. In the end, that was all that mattered.